Re-cognition. To recognate, to recognize. What? Myself. We spent a lot of time talking about that thing that prevents us from that very thing, to recognize oneself. We talked about the mind, and I think what a person has to do, again, this is in keeping with recognition, what a person has to do is to recognize the mind itself and what it means, and to recognize their own fear. That may seem a little complicated, but it's not really complicated at all. Thoughts are merely thoughts. Your mind is merely a biomechanical habit. That's all it is. I'm afraid that if I let go of that, that all kinds of things are going to get me. And not that we're necessarily afraid with those words, but in an action inside of ourselves. When you sit and you meditate or you involve yourself in this process, does a tightness happen in your body? And that tightness can be your fear. And it's one of the things that we need to recognize. We need to recognize it and let it go. See, I've said some things, and hopefully people would have caught on to it and began to live by it. And that is, you're going to die. Now, we don't know exactly when, but when you get to my age, you start looking around and everybody you know is slipping away. I got a few years back, I was talked to about a class reunion, my high school class reunion. And I said, my class reunion? They said, no, the whole high school, because everybody is almost dead. So we have to have all the classes there. It's like, okay. So when you get to that point, you have to realize your number is coming fairly soon. You can be 20 years old and your number is coming fairly soon. Doesn't matter. But that recognition. Now, when you have that recognition, do you have fear that you're going to die? Let's ask this question. Is fear going to stop it? I think not. The reality that death is going to happen. Something that we have not become accustomed to in our lives is no, as an absolute value. As an absolute value. An absolute value. As children, we ask our parents, can I? And they say no. And you keep saying, can I? And finally you wear them down. Death is not like that. You're going to die. There's no way around it. So the recognition of that fact can do a couple of things for you. Number one, humble you. You're not Superman. You're not going to live physically forever, but there is a way that one does live forever. And I don't mean some superficial way. It's going to happen. So one is humbled. The other thing is, you want to live totally every moment, every day. Now, that doesn't mean you get to choose to live things away from yourself. That's not what that means. It has nothing to do with the things, but it has everything to do with the person. To be totally involved even in the steps you take. And I mean the steps with your feet. You don't have to count the steps or walk looking at your feet, but feel, be present. Totally absorb where you are. Totally enjoy where you are. If you can remember moments when you were a child, how much joy listening to someone else's conversation when they didn't know you were listening. You know how absorbed you were. This is what it means to be in the moment, to have the experience of life now. So we recognize that. And these things can happen when we surrender as a matter of recognizing. We surrender. That doesn't mean, oh God, you haven't surrendered. You're just still being negative. There's a not a, the body doesn't slump. It comes to its straight up position. It relaxes. We smile, we laugh, we feel good. We begin to see life differently. And see, when you're working with something serious with me, I want you to lighten up. I don't want you to be so serious and so tight you're going to make a mistake. I want you to be yourself, be intelligent. Let's do this, okay? And I guess what I'm expressing is the way the recognition happens. A change in attitude. You're not looking for the words of the shift in recognition, but the action of shift. Every word I'm saying to you now is an after fact. An after the fact thing. I've gone through the experience. Now what I'm doing is giving you words to kind of whet your appetite. But what I'm saying to you is that the words are the result of having known something. They do not precede it. So I'm saying what an individual must do is have the recognition, and then the words make sense. Have the recognition, and then the words make sense. So you have to use the words late. You say, oh, this is what that meant. And you begin to shift. And you begin to see things a little differently. Ah, okay. So recognition is the linchpin of everything. We want to know all there is to know. You have to let that happen. Recognition of truth takes you beyond your assumptions about things. Recognition is an action, but it's a very subtle action. Something happens and you don't quite know it's happening, and it just kind of happens. It's just kind of there. To recognize. It might come as, well, if this is true, what I just felt, then everything I thought is not true. Ah, okay. Now comes resignation. Now comes surrender. Okay. All right. That's the next step. Surrender. It's all right to be a gentle soul, and we spend much of our lives defended and not wanting to be a gentle soul, because we view being a gentle soul as someone that people can step on, that they can walk over. I'm a gentle soul, but don't think you can walk over me. I will gently whip your ass. You know, I'm just one of the new people in the group in New York. He says, you know, I tell people I have a guru, and his name is Straight No Chaser. I love it. Straight No Chaser. Okay, I'll buy that. To put it to you in such a way so that you get it, no matter who you are, no matter what level you're thinking from. Point being, to be gentle and to be kind is natural to your being. It's natural by the nature of the soul. It is fine. Only flesh is hard in relationship to the gentleness and the softness of your being, your soul, whatever words we use to define that, which are silliness, but its nature. It is so fine, it must be gentle. Yes, Jesse?
So when you talk about surrender,
Mm-hmm.
and for us, it's surrendering, when we say surrender to God, it's about surrendering to our spirit self, and not our biomechanical mind, to come
Right.
to our higher God self, right?
Yes.
Because that's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
But see, when other people say it, if someone says, well, you need to surrender, you need to surrender, you need to surrender to God, as other people talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you look at them and they get caught up in what other people say about them, or they get caught up in, like, they did this to me, they did that to me.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a conflict with surrendering?
They haven't surrendered.
Okay, so.
They just said to themselves, I surrender, and they didn't do the action. Because, see, here's the problem with that statement. Surrender to God. What is God? You don't know. The key, the effective statement is, that's the effective statement. You see, when you surrender to God, you're still in words. You surrender. Surrender is, you feel the surrender by the movement of the smooth energy, by the peace that comes from not struggling and not fighting. That is surrender. I accept whatever may come. I accept that. Okay. I'm not trying to make the world be differently, but I am without making it be differently. See, to make it some way, to go out and God says this and God's in. You can't make the world different that way. You just make people hate you. Okay? You just, by your presence. What true surrender is. So your energy moves, and that energy affects the essence of others, which is the same energy. So they just they don't know what surrender means. And when people do this, they haven't surrendered, they've given up, they've quit. The difference. Surrender. I just don't have to lie about who I am anymore. Here's the key. Doesn't mean lie to someone else. Keep your mouth shut. Stop lying to yourself about who you are. I found out through that recognition, I was just me. I wasn't a big bad dude. I wasn't a lover. I wasn't whatever all that was. And I knew that. I knew that from my experience as an athlete. I said before I would win tournaments and they would say champion, but I couldn't find the champion. It was just me standing there in all my insecurity, not knowing where this champion was. If you talk to movie stars, they'll tell you how insecure they are and why they can hide behind the roles that they play. They're very insecure because they don't know who they are. They haven't surrendered the idea that they're supposed to be someone. Surrender means I am someone. Not the words, but the feeling. I am. I don't have to pretend to be anybody. Why should I? I am. And then you begin to see the pretenses of everyone else. And you go, oh, that's what that looks like. Okay. No more. Surrender. Does that make sense, Jesse? Okay.